Howdy folks, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with the mighty Jingles. So in the last episode, we had a serious case of brown alert as I got hyperdicted by the Thargoids after picking up a bunch of their sensor fragments from a crashed Thargoid ship, right out in the middle of the arse end of nowhere. I needed the sensor fragments in order to unlock access to the engineer Professor Palin. Professor Palin used to be located in the Maya system. The guide that I've been following, which is still a very, very good guide, is about 2 years out of date, and events have moved along, with the Thargoid incursions into the Maya system forcing Professor Palin to relocate to the Ark system. In the meantime, I took the opportunity to take advantage of what at the time, and this might give you some idea of how long ago I actually did this, what at the time was the most ludicrously profitable source of cash in the game for quite a long time. The infamous Baran system triple overlapping low temperature diamond hotspot farming session. And handing in all of those low temperature diamonds actually earned me a promotion to the trade rank of Tycoon, which is nice. And also faintly ridiculous because I really haven't been going down the trading route at all, and now purely by virtue of farming a bunch of low temperature diamonds I'm one rank away from elite. So on the other hand, I have been taking exploration seriously, but I'm still only ranked Pathfinder. Yeah, anyway. Next stop, the Ark system. We're going to go and see Professor Palin, hand in our 25 sensor fragments, and finish the engineering line that began with Elvira Martok. Professor Palin doesn't lead to anybody else, but he does offer grade 5 access to thruster upgrades, which is very nice. Of the thruster upgrades that he offers, I've gone for dirty drive tuning, which basically sacrifices everything: mass, integrity, power draw, thermal load, everything, for pure raw speed. The theory being that if I can't outfight you, and, well, I'm not going to outfight a lot in my Asp Explorer, even if I was any good, and I'm not, but if I can't outfight you, then I'm going to have a damn good stab at running away from you. And by the time I'd finally run out of engineering materials with Professor Palin, I'd managed to almost fully tune my thrusters up to grade 4, and I'd unlocked grade 5. So there's still some progress to be made, but at the moment I'm out of raw materials like selenium. So I can come back and get these engines fully pushed all the way up to grade 5, but even at grade 4, this has made a serious difference to the speed of my Asp Explorer.
Ship released. Departure authorized.
So let's see how fast she can cruise with 4 pips to engines. 200 meters per second. 300 meters per second. Holy shit, 367 meters per second, and that's cruising speed. She can maintain that indefinitely. Let's see how fast I can push it when I activate the boost. Okay, 499, nearly as good as 500 meters per second. I mean, that is fast. It's not the fastest I've ever seen, but it's the fastest I've ever flown. 500 meters per second. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have any problems keeping my distance from anybody that I want to stay away from in this thing. And don't forget, that's just grade 4 thruster upgrades. I still need to farm some selenium, come back and get grade 5 finished, so it's going to be even faster. We're probably talking a base cruising speed of not far short 400 meters per second. And a boost speed of God knows, 550, 600? A lot. So, what now? Because Professor Palin is the end of the line. Or he's the end of the line that started with Elvira Martok, led through that bastard Marco Gwent, and finished up here with Professor Palin. But along the way we did get some leads on some other engineers. But there is one other engineer that I've had access to from the very beginning, but I've never actually gotten as far as unlocking because he requires 100,000 credits worth of bounty vouchers, which, let's face it, isn't difficult to do, provided you kill pirates. And don't hand in the bounty vouchers, you save them up for Todd the Blaster McQuinn. Todd specialises in multi-cannons, and while I've been basically going for things like thrusters, frameshift drives, power plants and power distributors thus far, I think it's high time I thought about getting my weapons upgraded. And with just a couple of bounties like this, it'll be enough to unlock access to Todd. Just make sure you have at least 100,000 credits worth of bounty vouchers, and also that you have some multi-cannons installed on your ship, otherwise you'd have just made a long journey for absolutely nothing. Although Todd doesn't just do multi-cannons. I mean, multi-cannons are what I have fitted, so it's what I'm going to have engineered. It's probably fairer to say that Todd's an expert in all kinds of ballistic weapons, cannons, frag cannons, multi-cannons, and railguns, with grade 5 access to the last two, multi-cannons and railguns. So unlike Marco Quent, Todd is actually good for all sorts of things. And, as is barely standard by now, unlocking access to Todd and ranking up your access with Todd also unlocks access to two further engineers, the first of which goes by the name of Petra Olmanova. Now, she's actually a very, very good engineer to know, because as well as providing things like grade 5 access to hull reinforcement package, armour and heatsink launcher upgrades, she also provides grade 4 access to upgrades for mine launchers, seeker missile racks, torpedo pylons, missile racks, chaff launchers, ECM, point defence and automated field maintenance units. There are just two problems with young Petra. First, she's located 22,000 light years away, and second, she requires a combat rating of expert or higher, so I'm probably not going to be seeing Petra for some time. But the other engineer that you get access to through Todd McQuinn goes by the name of Celine Jean. Now, she doesn't offer nearly as comprehensive a range of services as Petra, but she does offer the two things that we're mostly interested in, which are hull reinforcement packages and armour upgrades, again, both at grade 5. And Celine's advantage is that she's way more accessible than Petra Olmanova. Although, while she is way more accessible than Petra Olmanova, that's relatively speaking, because she requires you to have mined and refined at least 500 tons of ore, and she's also going to want 10 tons of painite. Right now, however, we have other fish to fry. Like Todd McQuinn, there is one other engineer that we just heard about through common knowledge, even if we haven't unlocked him yet, and he goes by the name of the Dweller. And he requires that we have traded in at least 5 black markets, something that I have actually never done yet. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to pick up a mission to deliver something. Doesn't really matter what, but the cheaper the better. Something like food cartridges, which are cheap as chips. So when I cancel the contract, the fine isn't going to be too much. A couple of thousand credits at most. Because I am going to be cancelling this contract. I'm not going to deliver them. And here's the reason why. If you've taken on a mission to deliver some items, and then you abandon the mission, you keep the items, but they're now stolen goods. If you think about it, it makes perfect sense. I mean, the items haven't gone anywhere, they're still in your inventory. You've just declined to deliver them. And there they are, stolen food cartridges. So I am now carrying stolen goods, which would be a problem, because station authorities tend to get a bit upset with you if they scan you on arrival at the station and they find that your cargo hold is full of stolen stuff. They tend to take a very dim view of that sort of thing and shoot you out of space. So the challenge now is to find a station that has a black market, because nothing would be more embarrassing than successfully managing to infiltrate a station with your stolen goods, only to find that there's nobody there to actually sell them to. And that's why you find me in the V352 Canis Majoris system, because they have 3 orbital stations, 2 outposts and 1 Coriolis starport, all of which have black markets, as well as numerous surface settlements on the various different, many and varied planets within the system, most of which also have black markets. So I should be able to get the whole thing done in this one system. Assuming, of course, I don't fuck it up. I know what you're all thinking. Oh, ye of little faith, have some trust. So how is this actually going to work? Well, we have to dock at one of these stations without being scanned. Simple as that. Simple in theory, not quite so simple in practice. It's easier at an outpost than a big station like a Coriolis or Orbis starport. The reason for that is big stations have lots of fighter patrols. There's more traffic at a big station, so there are more ships for the patrols to scan, but there are a lot more patrols. It's very unusual to be able to dock at a Coriolis or Orbis starport without being scanned at least once. Tiny little outposts, however, well, it's not that they don't have patrols, but they usually only have one, and because they only have one, it can't be on patrol all the time. So if you are attempting to deliver stolen goods to one of these little outposts, you can either wait for the patrol to finish their shift and go away, or if there is other traffic, you can nip in there while they're busy scanning someone else. And sure enough, I've just arrived at Needham Gateway here, and they do have a patrol fighter up, but he's on the far side of the station, and he's busy scanning someone else. So even on auto dock, I've got plenty of time. And we're down. Right, let's go and see a man about some stolen food cartridges. Once the station interface is loaded up, we're going to head to contacts and black market. There it is. And there are my stolen goods. Now, I'm not going to sell all of them here because I have to trade at 5 different black markets. So we'll sell some. In fact, I'm only going to sell one. It doesn't matter how many of them I sell, just as long as I sell some at 5 separate black markets. And I've got plenty to spare. While we're here, we're going to try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because there's another engineer I'm trying to unlock, goes by the name of Lei Chung. He upgrades your shield generators, so I'm definitely interested in unlocking access to him, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to have traded at 50 separate markets. Not black markets, regular, legitimate markets. So I'm going to buy something cheap, and I really don't care if I make a profit or a loss on it, and if I do make a loss on it, it won't be much because I'm buying something cheap, and I'm going to trade that legitimately at the various different commodity markets that I'm going to be visiting as well, because that's all going to go towards unlocking Lei Chung. So outposts are fairly easy, but what about big starports? What about those Coriolis or Orbis stations? Well, Gauss City up ahead is an Orbis starport. They have a lot more traffic than outposts, but they have a lot more fighter patrols. There are a couple of ways that you can do this, because remember, you just have to get inside without being scanned. So you can do that by getting inside very, very quickly, lining up with a mail slot and boosting your way in. Or you can simply reduce your target profile. You see, here's the thing about getting scanned. The patrol ship has to be able to lock onto you in order to conduct the scan. So if they can't lock onto you, they can't scan you. So how do you prevent them from locking onto you? Well, what they're actually locking onto is your thermal signature. And that's represented down here. Oh great, I looked away. I'm trying to line up with the mail slot. Just give us a second. Down in the bottom right corner of your heads-up display, there, underneath where it says illicit cargo, that is your thermal signature. If you're not radiating heat, there's nothing for anybody to lock onto, so you can't be scanned. So how do you stop radiating heat? Well, you can shut your power plant down. That would work. But then you'd be dead in space and you wouldn't be capable of moving, so that's no good. The other method is to press the delete key on your keyboard and go into silent running mode. So your heat radiators close, and all of that internal heat gets pumped into a heatsink instead. It doesn't last forever, but it does last long enough, if you do it right, to avoid a scan. Unfortunately, I'm not doing it right. Can you tell what it is that I've done wrong here? You see, I requested docking permission, but I did it more than 7,500 meters away from the station, so docking permission was denied. And now I'm trespassing. I haven't been assigned a landing pad, and they're getting very, very upset with me. It's at this point where I would normally panic. But not today. So I'm on silent running. My heatsink has been exhausted, and I'm starting to generate a lot more heat. Of course, I'm still on silent running, so that heat isn't going anywhere. It's just building up inside my ship, and it's really going to start causing problems, but I've got to get out of here first. Otherwise, I am going to get shot down. Now, I don't want to get scanned on the way out either, which is why I've still got silent running activated. But another top tip, figure out what the keyboard shortcut is for the heatsink launcher. Don't do what I did. It's the V key, by the way. Frantically flipping through heads-up display menus until I find the right one to launch another heatsink. But it looks like I'm going to live. Silent running cancelled. Yeah. Let's try that again. This time, actually gaining landing permission before making my run. Now I boosted out of there. I'm lucky I didn't pick up a speeding ticket to go with the trespass fine, because this asp really can shift on full power boost. And I'm well outside of the station's no fire zone before I begin my approach again. You only have to worry about getting scanned once you're within that 7,500 metre no fire zone. The problem, of course, is that you have to be within the 7,500 metre no fire zone before the station will grant you docking permission. So I'm definitely not going to be using the autopilot here. I want to get through that mail slot as quickly as possible without being scanned on the way. If you find yourself being scanned, they have to complete the scan, and if you get through the mail slot and into the station before the scan completes, you've made it. Okay, I've entered the no fire zone. Let's request docking permission. Okay, good. Docking permission granted. I've been assigned a landing pad. Now I need to get in there, quick. It's worth pointing out that you can't do this with the docking computer active because it takes control over the ship, so you can't adjust your speed to get through the mail slot faster. You can't launch any heat sinks to break any target locks if you're being scanned, and you can't go into silent running mode. So do not try to do this with the docking computer active. By all means, once you've made it through the mail slot and you're inside and you're no longer going to be scanned, slow down and let the docking computer take over. Or if you don't run with the docking computer, then just do a manual landing as normal, which is what I'm doing here. I do normally run with a docking computer. It's just so much more convenient, but I figured I could use the practice. So manual landing today. And it wasn't bad. Right, thanks to the fine that I incurred for trespassing earlier, I now have anonymous access only. Which doesn't matter too much because the black market is still available because, you know, they're criminals. But I'm going to get the fine paid off anyway. It's only 400 credits. Because I could do without those kind of problems. So, after concluding my business at Gauss City, I'm docking at my 5th and final black market. Again, it's a tiny little orbital outpost. The size of the market doesn't matter, they just have to have a black market, and there we go. So I'm going to dump the remainder of my stolen food cartridges here, remembering as well to trade in some of my legitimate goods for the engineer Lei Chung, but that has earned me my invitation from the Dweller. So it's off to meet the man himself. We haven't actually unlocked access to this guy yet. There is one final hoop that he needs us to jump through. As you might have guessed by his inclination to cozy up with the kind of people that like to trade in black markets, he's a big fan of the almighty dollar, and he wants 500,000 of them. Nobody said this was going to be cheap. But then again, if you're this deep into the engineering grind that you've managed to gain access to the Dweller, 500,000 credits really isn't that bad. So we'll let him have his money, and then we're going to put him to work on our power distributor. The power distributor isn't the only thing that the Dweller does, by the way, although it is what he does best, with grade 5 engineering upgrades to power distributors. But he also is the first engineer that I've come across who's able to modify laser weaponry. Specifically, grade 4 upgrades to pulse lasers and grade 3 upgrades to burst lasers and beam lasers, so I'm definitely going to be taking advantage of this. Full disclosure, I didn't actually have enough engineering materials in order to get as far along with the Dweller as I'd have liked, so I had to go out and farm some more. And along the way, I bought myself a nice shiny new fer-de-lance. Now, I know just buying a fer-de-lance doesn't make you a great combat pilot, but it helps. This ship sucks at so many things. It's no good for mining, it's no good for trading, it's no good for exploring. It's only good for one thing, and that's killing other ships. And it's going to be a lot better at killing other ships once I've gotten the Dweller to take a look at its beam lasers. As well as, of course, the power distributor. And having the Dweller work on my systems, and I'm sure you're getting used to this by now, has also unlocked access to Lei Chung. And this is the guy who upgrades your shield generators. Along the way, by virtue of increasing my exploration rank, I've also come to the attention of Marsha Hicks. And Marsha Hicks is another very useful engineer to know, because she offers grade 5 access to collector limpets, prospector limpets, refineries, fuel scoops, and multi-cannons. all she's going to require to start offering us her services are 10 units of osmium ore. Now there's some good news about Lei Chung. Because we have been diligently trading legitimate commodities at every commodity market that we've come across for the last couple of days, we've reached the goal of trading in 50 separate markets. So the only thing that remains to unlock access to him is, wait for it, provide him with 200 tons of gold. So we're going to be spending some more money in order to get access to Lei Chung, but he's going to be worth it because he upgrades his shield generators. There is, however, also Celine Jean, who we unlocked after dealing with Todd the Blaster McQuinn, and her unlock requirements are a little bit more complicated and time consuming. She requires that you have mined and refined 500 tons of ore, and she's also going to want 10 tons of painite. So there's a certain element of crossover there between Marsha Hicks and Celine Jean. They both require mining. The only problem is that Marsha Hicks is substantially more difficult to get to. She's over there. And I'm over here, and that's what 22,000 light years looks like. So Marsha Hicks is definitely going to be a problem for a future video. For now, we've got plenty of other engineers to work on. We've got Lei Chung, we've got Celine Jean, and that is going to be coming up in the next episode. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.